Hey everyone, welcome to another top 10 list. This week is special because I'm not giving you a top 10 list. I'm actually going to give you a top 20 list, and I'm going to do it all at once. Normally I break up top 20s into two videos, but frankly, the subject matter isn't necessarily long enough for a video that way, so I will simply put all 20 into one video. What am I doing? Well, after last week when I went through all the boxes of stuff that I had, the portion that I had labeled interesting notes, well, that was kind of interesting. So I figured I'm going to do the top 10 or top 20 interesting notes that I've saved over the years. And some of these are just silly. Some of them may be something. Either way, they're interesting things I found in circulation. Interesting enough for me to want to save them and to not necessarily have a category for them. So let's knock these out. I have 20 of them, and at some point I will screw up the numbers. I'm pretty certain that will happen. All right, let's get started. Number 20. There's a $1 bill, and somebody took an unusual paper punch to this note and punched that out. I don't know what that is. Couldn't tell you. It almost looks like I see it. I don't know, maybe it's a rock with a frog sitting on it, waving, wearing some kind of hat. I don't know. I have no idea what this is. If you know what that design is, put it down in the comments. But yeah, a paper punch, a rather large paper punch at that, and no idea what that is. But I found that in circulation, thought it was neat. That is number 20. Number 19. I love finding art notes. Here's an art note featuring George Washington as a Rastafarian. He's got the dreads in there. That's pretty cool. Someone took a little bit of time to do that. And actually, the more artistic a person is, it would take me like 20 minutes to draw this. It probably took them about 30 seconds. I can draw pine trees really good, really quick, but that's it. So who knows how long it took this guy? Probably just a few seconds. But yeah, that will circulate for quite a long time until somebody notices it. So that was kind of cool. An art note. That's 19. Number 18. Another art note. This one turned George into the Joker. And I thought that was neat, just seeing the purple suit and the funky hair like that. Is that the Joker? I don't know. I thought the Joker had green hair. But yeah, the purple hair, some kind of satanic clown. I can almost see like Marilyn Manson in there. So somewhere between the Joker and Marilyn Manson and God knows what else. Very interesting note. Definitely got my attention. Cool art note. That one is number 18. Number 17. Another art note. This one much more regal. This is done with marker, and they managed to give George a beautiful colored suit. They highlighted the ruffles, and it was neat how they did his face and left the hair the way it was to give the impression of graying hair. So a well done art note here. This one is number 17. Number 16. All right. Check out the serial on this. 1, 2, 3, 3, 3, 4, 5, 0. Can you imagine what some people whose names shall not be named right now would say this note is worth because it's an upward chunky ladder, a chunky monkey? No, it's not even that. Some people will say if you have all the digits in an ascending order like that, that it's worth money, except we don't count 0 as 10, 0 is 0, and it should be here. So this is almost cool, almost worth money. And even then, even if the 0 was in front, I don't know that would be worth anything. Because why would you pay money for that? If you want to buy a ladder, buy a ladder. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You don't want to buy those? Why not? Are they too expensive? Well, there's a reason for that. It's because they're hard to find. Notes like this are not hard to find because they're not anything. So no, don't waste your money on stuff like this. Nobody should waste their money on almosts. If you wanted to buy a chunky ladder like this, get a full one. Get it where the next digit is a 5 or a 6. That would at least make sense. Not that it would be worth anything, but it would at least make sense. So that one is number 16. Number 15. This shows how mature I am, because it starts off with the numbers 7734, and of course, if you look at it upside down, 7734 upside down is HE double hockey sticks, and it's got a hockey stick to start it off. So yeah, I'm mature. I know. My note from hell. That is number 15. Number 14. I have a high number in here. This one is 95998. A true high number, well, a low serial number would have all zeros. The lowest number you can have would be all zeros and a 1. That would be a 1 digit. If you had six zeros and then a 2-digit number here, that's obviously a 2 digit. 5 zeros would be a 3 digit. Those are worth money, okay? But the opposite, they don't do 99999 for a serial number. They stop at 96000, which means if you have 9599, that means this is within 1,000 of the last notes. It's 1,500 away. 1,500 away from the last notes, and unfortunately 500 away from being worth money. You need one more 9. 95999, and then this would be considered a high number that would be valuable. But it's as close as I've gotten in circulation finds, so that's why that's in the interesting section. That is number 14. Number 13. Some people are going to scream that this is worth money. It is not. 7773, 7776. Why is it worth money? Oh, because it's got 6 7s on it. Well, the 6 7s aren't together. So if you want a note with 6 7s, buy a note with 6 7s together. Don't waste money on a note where the 7s aren't even together. Is it a solid? No. It's only 6 of a kind. Is it a repeater? No. If this 3 was a 6, or if this 6 was a 3, that would make it a repeater. That would be worth money. It's got 777 twice. It's double triples, as I struggle to even come up with the pronunciation of what people would call it. No, it's that doesn't mean anything. So no, don't fall for stuff like this. Once again, you want a note like this? Great. Find 7773, 7773. That's a repeater. That's worth something. Don't take the one-offs and the almosts. That's number 13. Number 12. One of the cooler notes I've ever found, 31415110. This is why this note isn't worth any money. Because if I take my finger and cover up these last digits, you have pi, 3.1415, and I believe the next digit on pi would be 9. 3.14159, I believe, is pi. And it keeps going from there, but that's as far as I know it. Anyway, it's my pi note. It's not exact. Unfortunately, pi is not exact either, but that's as close as I've ever noticed on a note as far as coming across a meaningful number. Once again, since I'm saying don't count the last digits, if anybody ever tells you to look at a fancy serial number and ignore digits, then that note isn't worth anything. So no, this note is not worth anything, but I think it's neat, so I saved it. That's number 12. Number 11. Actually found a note that's been stamped mutilated. This note is wore out and was destined for the shredder, and somehow it got back out. So maybe a bank decided they were going to mutilate the note, have it mutilated, and they put it in the mutilated pile. And when it got back to the Fed said, this note's fine, and threw it back in circulation. I don't know. Maybe some random person just stamped mutilated on it. But it was just unique enough for me to save, because I know they do mutilate bills that are damaged. They will shred those bills. You can actually buy shredded bills in little bags. So to spot a bill stamped mutilated got my attention. I thought it was neat. That's a good enough reason to keep it. That one is number 11. Number 10. This one's fun. I enjoy some of the stamps that you see on bills. This one says, this currency will not be used to pay for the services of trafficked or otherwise otherwise oppressed and exploited. Okay, let me try that again. This currency will not be used to pay for the services of the trafficked or the otherwise oppressed and exploited. So that's this note. But number 9 is get a dance from Bailey. so, so this is the good note, and this is the bad note, apparently. This one says, don't give this note to Bailey on accident. This is the one for Bailey. So that is, oh, I shouldn't laugh about that. It's just funny seeing the two messages together and how these would, who would have ever thought that these two stamps would end up together? What are you going to do? All right, so that's number 10, and that's number 9. Number 8, speaking of stamps, there's a good one. Somebody put stop tyranny on our money. Yeah, good plan. I agree 100%. Stop tyranny. That one is number 8. Number 7, speaking of devil, somebody was kind enough to put Trump is a chump on this one. I can't tell you how many notes that I found that have Let's Go Brandon on there, and I considered doing a video about the entire phrase Let's Go Brandon and how the joke of Let's Go Brandon completely destroyed a NASCAR driver's career, and he's completely out of NASCAR now through no fault of his own, just through a bunch of dumb drunk people chanting something at a race. And yeah, now that NASCAR driver, after winning his first race in his career, is no longer in NASCAR because of Let's Go Brandon. That was Brandon Brown. You can look up the story on that anytime you want. Brandon Brown, NASCAR, that'll tell you everything you need to know about the idiots that have Let's Go Brandon. Now, I'm not saying that you have to like Joe Biden. I'm simply saying if you didn't like him, say so. Don't destroy somebody else's life because you don't like a particular guy. See how this is? This person didn't like Trump. And did they destroy a random person? No. They just said Trump is a chump. So that was that. That one is number 7. Number 6. Looking at this note, you know one of the scammers is going to put a note like this up and say it's worth a fortune because somebody stamped an A. It actually looks like this was probably on another piece of paper and went through a printer, or it went through one of the check machines at the bank and got an A printed on it. But someone is going to claim, oh no, that's a printing error. No, that's just a stamp. And they're going to say, no, it's the exact same size as the A here. Well, yeah, it is, but it's the wrong color. And how would that possibly be part of the print process? It wouldn't. Anything, literally anything can happen to a note once it gets into circulation. And somebody stamped an A on this one. Somebody may have, I live in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Kenosha ends with an A. If they stamped Kenosha on a piece of paper and the A went off the edge, it could have gotten onto this bill. That doesn't make this bill worth anything. Interesting? Yes. Worth anything? No. That's number 6. That's number 6. Number 5. This bill was interesting. This side doesn't really do too much for me, but I did notice this light green here. But when I look at the back, you can see the shine. Okay, this bill has been totally destroyed. It almost has the impression of the Rainbow series, that color there. But when you can see the light shine off this, look how shiny this bill is. This bill has been sanded is the wrong word, but that's the texture because it's ridiculously smooth, ridiculously shiny. The green that you're seeing here is the green that was on the paper, just getting completely mutilated. Not an error at all. This note has seen some things, and there's no way that you could prove that the damage on this note happened at the BEP. So this is simply a damaged note. The shine is kind of the giveaway to let you know that the note has been tampered with. But yeah, no additional value on this note, but still neat and makes it into my box. That's number 5. Number 4. You can see that this note has black here and it has green here. And if you look, you can see a reversed serial number here and a reversed serial number here. And if we look at the back of this note, all we can see is that the note is trashed. It's trashed so bad you can't even make out the picture here. What happened to this note? Well, clearly this note had another note on top of it like this, and both of those notes got wet, God only knows what was spilt on the notes. But that ended up lifting up some of the black ink from the previous note and replacing it here. Remember, all of the things you see duplicated on this note are from the third print, and the third print is raised, or is punched into the note, okay? Which means that is in the note. Whereas everything on top, that can get rubbed off very easy. The stuff that's punched into the note, that's going to be very thick, very dark. You start putting a little bit of water in there, that's going to loosen that stuff up, and it's going to make it very easy for it to transfer. Whereas general wear on the notes on the outside here mean that it's less likely for anything to come off when a note gets wet. That's why you see these seals here. So no, this is not an error. This is clearly a damaged note. Cool note to find, neat note, but no additional value there. I'm glad I have it because that means somebody can't scam someone else with it. That one is number 3. Number 2, this is not worth anything, okay? This note barely exists. But someone is going to say, oh no, this is an under-inking error. And I'm going to say, no, it's not. And they're going to look at this side here and they're going to go, oh, look, there's no ink at all over here and there's no ink over here. And I'm going to say, no, you can see that this is a tear. And you can't quite make out that this section here is in just as bad a shape. Okay. Whatever caused this tear also removed whatever the top portion of this was. How do I know this? Oh, and look at the back. The back of this note, bright yellow. That's a sign of chemical damage. So this note was most likely left in a pocket, went through a dry cleaner's, got God knows what on it, and that's what destroyed this note. This is not an error. This is pure damage on a note. When you see stuff like that, look for those telltale signs. They do not use a yellow print on the back. They don't use yellow ink. If you see a note with yellow ink, that's chemical damage. When you see the telltale characteristics here, that's as if somebody put tape on it and ripped it off. That's a paper pull. So that is what the deal is with this note. And once again, when you have a note that's this limp, even if this was an error, you can't prove it because so many things could have happened to this note, which means it's not worth anything. That's number 3. Number 2. I didn't know what to make of this note, so I saved it. Is it an error? I don't know. I can't guarantee that it's a legitimate error, but I saved it because look at the serial number. See how the bottom half of all these serial numbers, it kind of fades to nothing? Well, many people are going to scream that that's an error, and I don't know. I don't know if that's an error or not. The other serial number looks just fine, but I don't know if there's any damage to the bottom portion of this to make that. I mean, imagine just taking a little piece of sandpaper and rubbing that off. Who would do that? Well, a person who would try to sell this as an error would do that. It doesn't matter who would do that. It's what matters is that somebody could do that. And if someone can make it look like an error, then it's probably not an error. Because just because you can't think of a reason on how that would happen naturally doesn't mean somebody didn't do it intentionally. The harder part is to try to figure out how that would have happened at the BEP. Now, to have all the numbers like that, to me, that's kind of odd. I don't understand how this one is complete and this one's like 98% complete and 97, 96, 95, 94, 98%, 90% complete. I don't know how that would work. I don't know how you would possibly get that to happen at the BEP. I could think of all kinds of ways where someone would either intentionally or unintentionally get the numbers to look that way, but because of that, I cannot call this a genuine error. Do I think it's interesting? Yeah, that's why it's in the box. So that one's number 2. And finally, number 1 this week. If I look here, the 9 is almost completely filled in. As far as I am aware, that is an actual drop of ink there. It is just too small for anybody to care. That's if there was a drop the size of the seal here, you're talking about a note with 40, 45 bucks, 50 bucks in this condition. But it's not. Actually, it's probably closer to 75. But it's not a drop that big. It's a tiny little smear inside of a 9. And much like I talk about filled stars, you can see white in there, so it's not even completely filled. So is that worth anything? I don't know. I found it in circulation. I'm not going to try to convince anybody that this is rare and worth money. Have I spotted another? I think I found an 8 that had a similar marking like that. And I think it's neat. Do I think it's worth something? What are you going to sell it for? When you can buy a legitimate error for 45 to 75, why would you buy something that's just such a minuscule little thing? So I just don't get that. But that one is number 1 in my list. All right, I did it, all 20 notes. I had a lot more than that in my list. Trying to narrow it down to 20 was kind of difficult, but I wanted to show some of the variety of things that I've found and some of the stories that go behind them. All right, if you learned anything new, go ahead and hit that like button. If you like what you see and you want to see more, please subscribe. Love reading all your comments. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.